Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, once again, thank you very much for joining Industrial Talk, the #1 industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates you, the industrial professionals, the companies that get it done. You are bold, yes. You are brave, yes. You dare greatly, yes. You solve problems, you're changing lives, and you're changing the world each and every day. We have a great conversation with a gentleman on this podcast named Tim Kobe. That's Kobe. He's an author and also founder and CEO of 8 Inc. And his book, you got to get it. His book is so cool. Return on Experience. That is something that I am passionate about. Let's get cracking. So I'm at an event. Yep. And I run into Tim Kobe. The event was a NEOM-sponsored event. And so we were chatting, and it was great. And one of the things that just sort of jumped out at me, because I think in industry, we have to be about the experience. I think given the pandemic, given the situation and the current situations within the world, I think for you and for others to stand out, there's got to be an experience. I think that we're going to have to stretch ourselves. And then here comes Tim. He has his book. And I got to tell you, if you're out on video, so you can go to my YouTube channel, Industrial Talk, the book is fantastic. So as I start to work through it, because once again, my advisory boards are just a collection of books delivered by people who have mad skills, mad insights, and wisdom out the wazoo. And this book does not disappoint. It's well designed, as it should be. And one of the things that I landed on is the 8 Inc., that's EIGHT Inc., Experience Realm. And I love pictures because I'm a picture guy. This is a picture. And it talks about the values of the company, whatever you are, and then being able to talk a little bit about the environment, products and services, behavior, communications, and how those elements, those realms, sort of cross-section. Anyway, and that's the people. That is where they talk about the people component of that experience. We've got to be about the experience. We've got to be, and you hear me talk about we've got to educate. Yeah, books galore. Go out to the World Wide Web. You can educate. There is no excuse why you cannot educate. And there is no excuse why you cannot collaborate. Look, I'm working, with Tim Kobe. Met him. Great. Fantastic guy. Insights like nobody's business. He's making me a better person, as well as many within industry, because you just want to go out and talk to them and see how they look at business, look at industry, that human element that must be captured and must be discussed. And then, of course, the innovation. The innovation. So I'm reading this book, too. I'm reading this book as well. The future is faster than you think. If you're out on video, I'm showing it right now. And it is everything that's associated that we talk about. We talk about 5G. Yep. We talk about digital twin. Yep. We talk about cloud, edge, IoT, IIoT, AI, ML, whatever you might, digital analytics, everything. That book sort of puts it in a way of being able to really, it's real, right? And what's interesting is how they have the convergence of all these technologies. That's why their position is, that's why there's a speed, a velocity that exists today within industry, within innovation. So once again, educate, yeah. Collaborate, yes. Innovate, absolutely. It's out there. People are doing it today. But here is the real crux. And I was thinking about this when I was working out. Action. There has to be action. We can educate, we can collaborate, we can innovate, but without action, we're not doing anything, right? It's just words. It's as if I want to lose weight and I read I educate myself and I read all the books about how to lose weight. And then I collaborate with people on how to lose weight, right? And then there might be ways of being innovative to losing weight. But if I don't do any of it, I'm not losing weight. I'm not doing anything. I'm not changing anything. The same thing exists within industry. You have to educate because there's no way you're going to get around not educating. You got to know what pros like Tim Kobe and others are doing. You've got to collaborate. You've got to have that human connection, that dialogue, that, hey, I've got something that I need help with, and be able to do that with individuals that possibly could have answers, and vice versa. It makes us better when we collaborate. And then finally, innovate. As you take all of that in and come up with an innovative solutions that is truly delivers on experience, such as that book we were talking about here, Return on Experience, Tim Kobe's book. The same thing exists, but without action, we're not changing anybody's lives. We're not changing anybody's community or the world. So we have to take action. And I believe foundationally, it has to be about the experience as well. All right. How about that? Boy, I was just thinking about that when I was working out because I'm trying to lose weight. Action. All right. Tim Kobe. Go out to a stat card. That's a TIMKOBE. And if there are multiple Tim Kobes out there, just put a little comma. 8 Inc. is the company. And I'm just telling you right now, you're not going to be disappointed. Absolutely insightful, doing cool things. And what an honor to have him on Industrial Talk. Enjoy the conversation. All right, Tim, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for finding time in your busy schedule to talk to the best listeners in the whole wide world.
Thank you, Scott. Sounds great.
All right. For the listeners, let's level set a little bit. Let's give us a little 411 on who Tim is. And then we're going to go talk a little bit about return on experience. So, listeners, we got a great topic to talk about. So give us a little background there, Tim.
I have a company called 8 Inc. We are originally founded in San Francisco, now have 10 studios around the world, in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. We have been focusing on designing for human outcomes now for more than 30 years, been working with Apple about 23 years, spent the time that Steve was at the company working directly with him every week, and have been delivering, successful outcomes for lots of people around the world.
Got it, Tim. You're a name dropper. Steve Jobs, you name dropper. So let's start into it, because I think this is a real important topic. It goes beyond just industrial design. There's more to it, and I like the way we're going to approach it. You have a book. It's called Return on Experience. Give us a little. What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's using design strategy to help create value, and the tools that you need to do that. You need to design human experience ultimately if you're going to have it have an impact on your business. And one of the things certainly we learned for many years working in the Apple work is that design is not just the way something looks or feels, but it's actually what it does for people. And so that as a component of the design is essential. The human part. You want to?
Yeah, I was going to ask you a quick question. If you've got the design, but is it more important to look at that human experience? Does that, if I were to look at it from a pie and percentage, is the human experience the most important component of that whole thought process?
Yeah, so we look at something, we do what's called an experience master plan, and we look at that to begin with to frame how you create value. If you're a company, doesn't really matter what type of company, you have to create value for your customers or you won't be successful. In order to do that, your business is simply then a device that aligns to deliver that value to customers. And so we want to structure the decision-making process and the focus accordingly so that you maximize the value in your business.
I think companies, and I could be completely wrong, and I'm not here slamming anybody. I think that people focus in on the technology and forget about the customer experience. It's there's an assumption that takes place and it might be a great technology. I'm not sitting here, I'm just saying, hey, it's a great technology, but do we really and truly focus on that customer experience and do the work in the beginning to say, what's our human outcome here? And I think that that's a real important conversation to have. How do we begin that journey, Tim?
Well, I think the first thing is to distinguish the difference between a technical capability and technology. And what I mean by that is a technical capability. You may have the ability to make foldable glass, for example. Okay, now, if I have the technical capability of making foldable glass to influence my design of a product, the real question is for it to become a technology, which means it has to create value with that technical capability, then it has to be focused on what is a human outcome? Why do people need it? Why do people, why would they be better off by incorporating that capability? So if you're just building things based on technical capability, you're really not creating technology, because technology implies a portion of that equation is serving people. And if you're not serving people, you're probably not creating much value, and you end up with whatever the trend of the week is that comes down the line, but you actually don't have a value creation engine.
And there are a lot of stories out there where they had the technical capabilities, but they did not look at the technology and how it fulfills or satisfies that end user, that customer, and creates value for them. Outside of the fact that I was sort of stumbling on foldable glass, does that exist out there?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you look at some of the Samsung mobile phones.
Right.
So I'm just saying that you can take a technical capability, and most people see that as a feature, which in fact, unless it does something for you as a user that adds value, if it makes a bigger display or it has a function that creates human value, then you probably are going to have a hard time turning that into a successful product.
So here's a funny thing. I've seen that Samsung foldable glass. I never heard it was foldable glass, but of course I'm sitting in there and I'm just opening and closing it and opening and closing it and looking at it. Hey, look at that. It works. You close it. I'm not sure if that is real value in my life, but
that's my point. Exactly.
It sure is a fidget. I just sit there and go, when is that thing going to crack? When is it going to crack and fail? I don't know. No. I'm sure they've done their study on that too. I don't know. No, but
and there may be a value that they've determined, which is why they produce it as a product. I'm not saying that particular product is either good or bad. I'm just suggesting that any technical capability does not make a product. To make a product, you have to serve for human outcome, what the experience is that people have with that product.
So let's talk about and I'm looking at your form here, 8 value creation engines. What does that mean?
Yeah, our value creation engine is actually just a structure in the process that we use to help ensure that the questions that are being asked around any design problem are being framed in a way that's going to lead to the best outcomes. So we start with the first question that has to be answered: are what is the human outcome that you're looking to serve? Why does your company deserve to exist? Why do people want this? And so essentially you're defining the why for the business, but you're defining the aspects of your company that fundamentally make it valuable. From there, you need to develop a strategy. So with the human outcome at the top, the next piece is a strategy to deliver those outcomes. So you can have lots of different strategies, but if they don't deliver those outcomes that make you unique or special, they're probably not so valuable. And then the third thing is the tactics that you use to support that strategy. And I can say that 9 times out of 10, clients will come to us with tactics in mind and want to apply this tactic because they've seen it, with a competitive product, or they've seen it elsewhere, and they start with tactics. And that tactical way of thinking is actually, to a large degree, the way we're normally wired. But unfortunately, you have a high risk of failure if the tactics you're employing don't support the strategy, which then delivers on the outcomes. So it's helping us create these 3 boxes to organize, ideas and points to frame that.
So when a company comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got this," but they deliver the tactics that they think support the strategy. It's up to you and your organization, your team, to say, whoa. Once again, let's level set here. What's that outcome? What are you trying to accomplish? What is that human outcome? Then we can define, and everybody's got to shake their head. And I would imagine, again, it's never, from my perspective, it's never the technology, Tim. It's always just human. It's always the people. It's always gets down to that. And so if you can get people to say, yeah, that's the strategy, then you can venture into the tactics. There might be overlap, but the reality that, and the way I look at tactics, that's like do this, that type of thing, right?
Yeah. And in design has a lot of tactical work, whether it's communications, whether it's the environments, the human behavior, that's all tactical work. But unless you frame the architecture of the thought correctly, then your tactic could miss, completely. And it may be a perfect tactic for another company, but it may not resonate for you and your particular business. So that's why it's important.
Do you ever go down that road of saying, we thought the tactics were this, but then you start to go in and you're heading down that journey, and then you realize, no, I think we need to adapt. Do you have any sort of adjustments within those tactics?
Well, we've the year after we finished the first Apple retail store, so starting from the very beginning, finished the first year, a number of companies called us and said, "Hey, we want an Apple retail store. Can you make one for us? Give us a white store and put some wood tables in it, and we'll be successful." So they articulated the tactics that Apple used that were right for the Apple retail program, and just naturally thought if they transplant that to their company, they would be just as successful as Apple. And so we start typically by challenging the assumption around a tactical first structure. And so that's when we start to switch the conversation to human outcome strategy and then tactics.
See, I like that. Now, number 4, as we've got the outcomes, we've got the strategies, we've got the tactics. Everybody's shaking their head, thinking, "Yeah, thumbs up. Let's move forward." What's number 4 in this 8 value creation engine?
There's just those 3.
Just those 3 out of it. The math doesn't work out, Tim. I was ready to roll on the number 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, we only have those 3. But if we frame that correctly, then basically it's a way to get particularly large companies, but it can be for small companies as well. But it gets everybody on the team aligned towards what we're looking to achieve. So what it does is it takes an enormous amount of noise and inefficiency out of the development process. And one of the reasons companies struggle with developing something new is they consider it a lot of risk. They don't manage creativity particularly well, and they don't have a structure that helps set some guardrails for them that will lead them ultimately to an efficient process that will be successful.
Do you ever broach the subject of risk and looking at the tactics and saying, okay, here's a risk and we've got to manage that? And in that process, and I know this happens all the time, I'm looking at my financials. I'm looking at it quarterly. I want to make sure that I hit my financial targets as a company. Do you also approach this value creation engine in a way where I can have like little victories? Like I want to be on a winning team and I want to feel those little victories. Do you structure it that way?
Yeah, I mean, particularly larger companies, that to get them to just buy into this philosophically is against the normal nature, right? Most organizations are set up in verticals, and we're really saying customer experience happens laterally. It happens across all the verticals of the business. So that already is a difficult thing for them. But when you look at risk, we heard lots of people criticize the Apple retail program at the beginning because it was going to be this risky proposition. But it was set up in such a way that if there were failures or if there were improvements that we could make, we would continue to improve and evolve and make it better. But a lot of companies today are on one or the other side of the equation. One is they're on the latter part of the adoption curve, so they're waiting for somebody else in their industry to take the risk and then be a fast follower. And then there are those on the front end. But what's happening today is the rate of change is so rapid that the risk is actually, staying still. And so if you're not looking at who's disrupting you, you're putting your business at greater risk by doing nothing than you are by trying some things, making smart experiments and learning from them and adopting and adapting as you go forward. So we're always trying to balance that risk exists either way on either side of that curve.
But if I were to look at if I was a stagnant business and I was just waiting and looking around and hoping something, you're already, the train has left the station and it's a bullet train and you're not getting on it, and you're going to run that risk of being insignificant really quick as a business. That's not where you want to be. And boy, you hit on some really important topics. One is speed. I am just, I don't know what's happening. I can't keep up. And of course, I'm not the sharpest tool. However, it is fast. And it's talking to people like you who just constantly say, this is where it's going. This is what's happening. This is what we're looking at. And others. And you realize quickly that if you're not in the game, if you're not trying to figure out what that is, then good luck, I guess, is the only thing that's left.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I think a lot of people are at a loss in terms of what to do, because they realize the world's changing, but they may not have the tools available to them to respond to that change. So they end up, the deer in the headlights kind of scenario. And so if you have particular levers that you can pull that will help your business be successful. I mean, we look at two things. One is differentiation. The other is emotional connections. So, if you look at the research, you ask 80% of CEOs believe they're creating a differentiated product. And if you ask the customers, 8% of customers believe they're creating a differentiated product. So where's the disconnect? And the disconnect comes from companies emulating one another and ultimately commoditizing what you do rather than defining something as distinct. So that, there are tools available, in terms of processes that allow you to be able to move at speed, but you have to be able to get your hands on those tools.
And you bring up an interesting dilemma. It's where do I start? If I'm a company and I hear what you're saying, it's like, yeah, Tim's talking and it's great stuff. And I agree. And I'm shaking my head saying, yeah. I don't even know where to start. Right. I don't know. Do I contact Tim and say, Tim, can you just sort of give us sort of we want to be here, and I think we're here. I don't even know what step one is. What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have a strategic design consulting business, so that's what we do for a lot of companies. But it's one of the reasons that I wrote the book, was to give people at least a framework around, what we've learned from 30 years of doing this and how they can apply, maybe think about applying it to their business. So, we're not trying to keep it a secret. We're trying to share it with as many people as possible, because ultimately you end up with better human outcomes. We end up with a better world. So the idea of that being a part of the conversation, it can happen at different levels, right? Whether it's deep within a company, or whether it's a startup trying to get their head around, what are the key pieces they need.
See, and I just think if you're a company and you're the books, I depend on books, and I depend on books because I don't have a team of individuals helping me, distill what's going on out there. So I am left to reading, and it's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong, but that's where I reside. But I think that the executives, the individuals that I think that it's important that they just recognize it. And there's a lot of noise out there, right?
Right.
Is it IoT? Is it Industry 4.0? Am I manufacturing? What's this? What's this? What's that? And I think it's imperative, me personally, to find that trusted person, team, whatever it might be, to be able to have these conversations so that you're not left out there just sort of, I don't know, dangling in the breeze.
Yeah, and I think what you just described, is it IoT? Is it blockchain? These are all tactics. And if we don't have that framework to deliver into, we may or may not be creating value. I mean, there's no reason that startups should fail other than they make mistakes, right? And if you frame these things properly, your ability to successfully create valuable companies, are going to be enhanced because you're focused on that value.
See, and you brought up another good point. You're just ripe with good points. The other one is blockchain. And then I've had that conversation, blockchain this, blockchain that. I've had all the conversation. For me, when we look at your value creation engine, what is that human outcome? What is the strategy around it? Because some people just pop in. It's like, hey, here's a blockchain. Like, what does that mean to me? How does it make my life better? What problems is it solving for me? And in your strategy, that's a tough topic to try to. It's so squiffy sometimes. It's like it's hard to sort of hold on to, right? It's like, and so it's an interesting dilemma.
No. To me, the idea of even blockchain, a lot of people are trying to move it into a strategy to define a business. But to me, it lives most naturally in tactics. It's a tactic to do a particular task, and that's fine and valid and potentially a huge value to a company. But blockchain in and of itself is not necessarily going to be the solution to deliver the outcome. It may lead to supporting the strategy that delivers the outcomes, but it's in and of itself, I think it's much more on the tactical side than it is on the experience side.
Spot on, because every time I look and I have these conversations, I'm going to be ever dealing with the fact that I'm gonna cement in my memory human outcomes. If there's one thing that we get out of this conversation, is that human outcomes and being able to truly define that human outcome, that experience. See, I like that.
Yeah.
Now your book, Return on Experience, does it have all that fun stuff in it?
Yeah. It's written in a conversational manner, and my co-author is Roger Lehman, who's a psychologist. And what I tried to do initially was capture what we have learned over the last 30 years of designing for these companies and put it into questions and answers. I've been asked a lot of questions, so I tried to answer those questions. But what Roger did as a thread through the book is explain why it works from a psychological standpoint. So a lot of the things we were doing, we actually didn't know that there was a psychological premise behind it that actually made that work. And so he ties it together with that thread that's built on, research and academic practice.
See, that's pretty cool. And just FYI, let me turn around. If you're out on video, you'll see that I have books. Let me turn around. Oh no, yeah. Here's the shameless plug. It's missing a book.
Oh, that's impossible.
It is. It's not there. I looked through my library and I haven't had that whatever that Return on Experience. It's not there.
Okay,
there are other books
tomorrow.
here, but not that
one tomorrow.
Shameless, but it is out on Amazon. I have it up right now. Great ratings. It's timely, and it's my challenge, Tim, is the fact that there's just so much there's so much to learn, and it's exciting. To me, it's all exciting, and so it's like Christmas, and I was like, oh, I'm all excited because this is important stuff. This is important information that industry needs to know, because we just go down the road and we don't do things right. We make mistakes. And then in industry as a whole, that's it. One mistake, you're done. You're off the train. I'm booting you. I knew it. And we just can't live life like that. We've got to try and fail and succeed and do it.
Yeah. I think, having the right type of environment it's up to the leadership to establish that and, give people the opportunity to build on these things. But, from my perspective, I think of many of our problems we have designed. We've created these problems that we are living with today. We can design our way out of these problems as well. And so I am as an advocate of using strategic design as a way of helping to improve things. That to me, it becomes essential that we develop those skills, because it's really no different than other skills we've had to develop in the past. But we just have to become a bit better at understanding other people and a bit better at understanding how design can actually be an extremely valuable part of a business strategy.
That's a great way of wrapping it up. Now, listeners, we've got Tim. You can tell he's got massive skills. Great street cred when it comes to this stuff. 5 autographed books. You just got to let me know so I can let Tim know. I don't have a funnel. Just gotta say, hey, I want a book. Whatever. We'll get it to you. So I'll figure that out. Tim, how do they get a hold of you? Let's just say in general, I like what Tim is saying. How do I get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, my email is Kobe, Kobe, at eightinc.com, EIGHTINC.com.
Easy peasy.
Easy.
Don't come to me, listeners, and say I can't get a hold of Tim. It's that easy. You were fantastic, Tim.
Thank you.
Absolute honor to have you on Industrial Talk. I like it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's all on this side. All right, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. You know, I'm going to hammer again. So don't come to me and say I can't get a hold of Tim, because I'm going to make sure that we hammer it on the other side of the break. So stay tuned.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
Boom. That was a great conversation with Tim Kobe. Absolutely wonderful. I love that return on experience. Bring it. Put it in your heart, man. Put it in your heart. And you've got to reach out to Tim. Go to industrialtalk.com. You know that. Go to his landing page, his podcast, all his contact information there. And if you want a book, I've got a little link there, and just say, hey, Scott, I want one of his autographed books. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to be disappointed. All right, once again, we need to, of course, educate, collaborate, and innovate. Yes, please take action. Think about what Tim and others are talking about from an experience point of view, and it's going to have bottom line value for you without a doubt. All right, be bold, be brave, dare greatly. Reach out to Tim and hang out with that dude, and you're going to change the world, because you're not going to be disappointed. All right. Thank you very much for joining. We're going to have another great interview right around the corner, so stay tuned.